press conference. And with me here is the National Executive of AGP, the Interim Executive. To start with the far right, with Ms. Betty Moyo, who is the Secretary for Women's Affairs. And next to Mr. Foni is the Vice National Chairman, Mr. Fungai Mafara. And next to the Treasurer is Mr. Bishop Epson Chikova, who is the Secretary General of the party. And finally, the leader of the party, Marcelina Chikasha. And myself, the one speaking, is the National Organizing Secretary, Mugari Jewels. Also, we have some water, and it's just a reminder, if you want something to drink, there's some water. Thank you very much.
Morning everyone, and thank you very much for coming. We as the African Democratic Party have a message for the citizens of Zimbabwe. We bring a message of love and of unity. The state that we find ourselves in today did not just arise. We did not just wake up in poverty, with a dysfunctional and corrupt government, with dirty cities, mass immigration, unemployed youth, massive closure of industries, and vast tracts of wasted agricultural land. It did not just happen overnight, that the system broke down, that corrupt, selfish, and greedy individuals positioned themselves as our leaders and started milking the country. It started in our hearts, ladies and gentlemen. All of us, some of us sitting here, and you standing over there, we allowed this situation to unfold in various ways, and it's time we took responsibility. Some of us, we were fearful. We did not want to say anything when everything was going wrong. Some of us were selfish, and we didn't want to risk the little that we had, and so we played it safe and neutral. And yet some of us were selfish and two-faced, praising the wrong things if it afforded us opportunities and enabled us to survive. We somehow became these people that could brush off the beating or killing of another Zimbabwean, a brother or sister, in the name of politics. How did our hearts become so hardened? How did we stop caring? When did we lose ourselves? There is something that I like to call the heart condition, or the collective conscience of a nation. What is the heart condition of Zimbabwe today? Is it a condition that can birth a great nation? Is it a condition that we can be proud of? Do some introspection and ask yourself, do I have love for my fellow Zimbabweans? Do I have love for my country? It is not too late, ladies and gentlemen, for us to wake up from our slumber, put our country before ourselves, and to unite. Unite for progress, unite for development, and unite for prosperity. Where there is love and unity, there is peace and there is progress. Now we go on to exactly who is in the ADP. The African Democratic Party is made up of entirely new players in Zimbabwe politics. You will not have heard of Marcelina Chikasha, Happison Chikova, or Jolson Mugari before this. We are all new players with fresh ideas, energy, drive, and passion. We are fiercely patriotic. We are from astonishingly diverse backgrounds, But what brought us together and what continues to bind us is our love for Zimbabwe. The African Democratic Party was started in April 2014 by a group of God-fearing individuals whose hearts were broken at the state of the country. We realized that we can have any economic blueprint under the sun, we can get all the lines of credit we desire, but as long as we are divided and working against each other, we will never come out of this pit of despair. Every individual citizen's contribution is critical to the success of the nation. Not what they contribute at the mercy of the batting stick, but when a citizen is free to contribute their talent, their skills, intellect, and capital in a non-restrictive society, then we shall indeed taste good success. We at ADP desire to create that environment. We must create that environment at any cost. And so our vision is to create a value-driven, fully functional, prosperous, and globally competitive nation. Our mission, to empower Zimbabweans at every level of society through a fast-paced developmental strategy that will launch Zimbabwe into developed status in 15 years. The main objectives of the party. Number 1, to map out a development strategy for Zimbabwe through sound economic and social policies. Number 2, to ensure that every Zimbabwean has a quality of life that will protect their dignity as a human being. Number 3, to ensure that no citizen subsists below the poverty datum line. Number 4, to create a society that upholds the basic precepts of humanity, or what we call Ubuntu. Number 5, to restore, uphold, and apply fully the rule of law and restore human rights, equality before the law, and equal opportunities for all citizens, regardless of race, tribe, sex, religion, or origin. Number 6, to enable Zimbabweans to define and promote a Zimbabwean identity and culture in order to unify Zimbabweans from all regions, races, and tribes. Number 7, to uphold the liberation ethos and values to protect the sovereignty of Zimbabwe. And lastly, to decentralize and ensure that each province becomes its own center of power. We have an advantage. We thank God for the high literacy levels. We will capitalize on the youthful population, our abundant natural resources, the wonderful and rich soils, our beautiful climate, and the hard-working and skilled populace. There is no excuse for poverty, no reason for failure. We are our own hurdles as we fight each other, hate each other, and pull each other down. Let us unite, and indeed we shall find ourselves in the land of milk and honey. If God is for us, who can be against us? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcelina Chikasha, the President. And it's time for questions now. You can ask the questions, please. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I take note of the flag, the ADP flag, if I am correct. And the colors are Zimbabwean colors. But you have removed the red. And yet the same red, you are hanging it over the banner. Why is your flag devoid of the red color? And at the same time you are saying that you are for the liberation ethos.
In the interest of unity, I think there are a lot of things that we have to put behind us as Zimbabweans. And I believe that, yes, blood was shed by the Liberation War heroes, but we must also be cognizant of the fact that blood was also shed during Ukrawundi. Blood was also shed in 2008, and there's a long healing process that we need to go through as Zimbabweans. And we first of all have to work to put the bloodshed behind us. That is why we decided not to put any color representing blood on our flag as ADP.
Yes, sir.
Now, has it been an easy process to form a party in this environment? Like, for instance, have you been followed or are you being followed? And is your party being fully resourced? Where are you getting the funding?
Okay, I'll answer one question at a time. The first part of the question, nothing worth doing in life comes easy. So, unless this was some fly-by-night political party, then yes, it would have been very easy. But we've really encountered a lot of hurdles. But as the national executive, we've had the stamina to overcome the hurdles, and we're determined to overcome the ones that we know are coming in the near future. So yes, we've had challenges, but we're well equipped to deal with those challenges. And in the second part of the question, are you well resourced? I think any political party could be better resourced at any given point in time. So we are resourced, but we are not best resourced, and we're still working on funding and all those other issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Marcelina, it's been a while since we last saw or had a woman in a political movement. And women in Zimbabwe have been rising much on the basis of affirmative action as opposed to them being their own women, as it were. So I just want to understand what makes you think you're cut out for the growing local politics? I mean, being a woman. Then at the same time, I also want to understand, what are your projections like? Are you going all out for presidency in 2018? We are just laying a basis for future onslaught and stuff like that.
Okay, if I'm to understand you well, Kosana, you are asking if there's anyone behind me, basically, in short. As a woman who's taken the bold step of going into Zimbabwe politics.
Not really. Can you toy? Can you chant slogans? Can you that kind of stuff?
I believe that I can. I've always, since I was about 3 years old, I've really wanted to change the world. And as I've journeyed through life, I've taken on various, work and other endeavors to try and change the world. But I knew that my ultimate home was in politics. So it's not as if anyone put the idea into my head, and I believe that I was born with the qualities and that I will really go through, the long run and actually stand for the presidency in 2018.
How different are you from everyone else?
As a party or as an individual?
As a party.
As a party, I believe we're very different because the message that we preach is a message of love and unity. Our critical concern is the development of Zimbabwe and the living standards of the Zimbabwean people. So we are not about selfish gain, personal gain. We're not about power. And as we've been watching and monitoring Zimbabwe politics, it's very sad to say that a lot of politicians go into it for the power and the perceived, money and remuneration and things like that. And we are saying, no, we're just, you're very basic individuals from very diverse backgrounds. We've got no special leveraging, but we just have a love for Zimbabwe. So I believe that that's where the difference is.
Yes, Lily.
I want to believe that as a woman, you are also there to address some of the challenges women do face in Zimbabwe. what is it that women can expect from you as a woman leading the party?
I've had, a very interesting life myself. And as the saying goes, there's, nothing like the University of Hard Knocks. There's nothing like experience as a teacher. So my compassion for women will not stem from reading a textbook or, earning a degree in that area, but I feel for women because I am a woman, and the issues that women go through, I have gone through them myself personally. So, I have a very broad understanding of women's issues, and without defining any single issue, I can say that, my heart is there for the women.
You mentioned about hurdles. You care to mention some of the hurdles you faced in trying to form the party? And I would also be interested in knowing how old you are.
I will not ask how old I look. I'm actually 41 years of age, and I'm turning 42 in September. Maybe this is the time for me to go into a bit of personal detail. I'm a mother of 2 boys, 16 and 18 years old, and an accountant by training, and I pursued that profession for a long time. Served in various capacities as financial manager, head office accountant, etc., etc. And then left that profession to go into philanthropic work. So that's a little bit of who Marcelina is. On the hurdles, I think we all know the hurdles that any emerging political party in Zimbabwe will face. We've been blessed thus far in that we haven't really experienced outward intimidation or any such tactics, but the sound that my phone makes has changed a little bit. There's now like a crackling sound, and I believe that I'm being bugged and things like that. So it's still mild. So it's nothing to really shout from the rooftops about.
Yes, sir.
In your speech, you mentioned that Zimbabweans are equally to blame for the situation in the country because they feared so much for their lives. And now we are hearing MDC Chief President Morgan Tsvangirai saying it's time to put a stop to the road, and he has called for street protests against the ZANU-PF leadership. So are you in support of his stance as
Street protests are a bit tricky because when you decide on how you're going to make a statement as a people in a nation, you have to understand the psyche and the mental makeup of the people that you're serving. So in my own personal study, Zimbabweans are not the mass protest type of people, or people who are willing to really take that risk and march on the streets. I think maybe further study needs to be done by that particular party. We cannot advise them on how they should conduct their political affairs, but I would say my own study of Zimbabweans and their political and mental makeup is that they are not really ready to go to the streets. You might actually find yourself there alone and everybody's remained indoors.
Yes, sir.
As a party, what's your position on sanctions?
On sanctions, we believe that Zimbabwe is under sanctions, and it's a subtle and tricky, maybe scenario, because they called targeted sanctions, but they have affected the lives of the ordinary people. So in engaging the international community, obviously that would be one of the key subjects that we would need to discuss, because in as much as we deny the existence of sanctions on the generality of the population, we do believe that they're there. Just from an economic perspective, we know that ordinary Zimbabweans have been affected by the sanctions, targeted or otherwise, whatever you choose to call them.
So you kind of share that position with one of the parties in government, ZANU-PF?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. As a party, so that you want to contest the 2018 plebiscite. But in Zimbabwe, there's a history of elections that are being rigged. what some of the tactics do you have to counter those rigging tactics of ZANU-PF?
On the allegations of rigging, I guess politics is never, as cut and dry as we would like it to be. So we would not really give away our own tactics, at a conference such as this for countering something like the rigging allegations. So we are aware that, such statements have been made in the past, and we are working on counter strategies for such a thing should it arise.
Yeah, thank you. What is your perception of Zimbabwean political situation? Would you call our political environment democratic, autocratic, a dictatorship? How would you characterize it?
I would characterize it as a political environment that is on its way to being democratic.
Maybe probably way to be putting in a sport. Would you think we are still in transition 34 years after independence? You say we are moving towards being democratic. Where are we?
I think this is the point that I will actually mention the opposition leader, or the main opposition leader in Zimbabwe, and that is Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai. And I would say that he has also fought a great battle for all Zimbabweans on that road to democracy. So there is a process that he started, and we are taking over that process and hopefully seeing it to completion. So we are in transition. I would not say we were in transition from 1980 because we were not, but we are now in transition with the advent of the MDC and Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai's inroads into creating a democratic society in Zimbabwe.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Your party, AGP, ZANU-PF is a political party. It's well known for its liberation background. And the MDC, like you said earlier on, has somehow become a face of democracy. So, what political space are you hoping to fill?
The one in between the MDC and ZANU-PF.
Which one?
Which is, the issue, according to how we have analyzed it, is that we do not have a strong identity as Zimbabwe. You either were, of a mindset that sort of did not acknowledge the contribution of the people who actually brought Zimbabwe to us and brought us the independence and the freedom that we enjoy today, or you are totally caught up in that era where you still think we are fighting some kind of war for liberation. So we are saying no, we are not in any war right now. We've actually fought the war. We gained independence in 1980. So that is a chapter that we need to acknowledge, but we also need to close it because we need to make progress. We need to be proud of our history, but we need to give it its correct space and its correct positioning in our collective psyche as a people. It cannot take predominance in our lives today because we've got more pressing issues that we need to deal with. We've got new diseases emerging every day. We've got poverty that we need to deal with. We've got this global shrinking market that we're facing, and we've just got global competition and so many other things. So we're saying, let's position it correctly, let's give it its rightful place, but let's also become a new state, a free state, and people that are progressive and working on a new Zimbabwe altogether.
I'd like to know your position on how you intend to resuscitate the economy vis-a-vis the current economic policies, like the regionalization policy, Zima said, things like that. And what's your foreign policy regarding our dealings as a country state with the West or the East?
Zimbabweans are generally known as individuals as friendly people, and we would want as a party to carry that image forward even into our international relationships. But we also object to, the way Africa has been really made a second-class citizen internationally. So we are saying, give us our rightful position as Africans, as Zimbabweans, and let's deal fairly together. Whatever we can offer you, we'll offer it gladly, and whatever you can offer us, we'll also accept gladly. So we're not out here to make enemies, but we're here to also stand strong. You know, we're not about to be pushovers for anybody.
So you're going to deal with anyone, either the West or the East?
Yes.
So what's your current policy on sanctions?
On sanctions?
Yes.
No, those have to be removed. We really have to engage the international community. We said before this that we are not in support of those sanctions, and we understand that they're actually not targeted sanctions per se, because we know that bills were passed, Zidera and so on. So we want to engage America, we want to engage the United Kingdom, we want to engage Europe, and actually get to a point where there's mutual respect and authentic dealings with each other.
So without divulging much, can you shed, I'm sorry I just arrived, maybe say, can you shed a little bit on how you intend to resuscitate the economy? What's your policy?
The Zimbabwean economy is very easy to resuscitate, and it needs commitment, and it just needs financing. But we are a rich country. I think a lot of people misunderstand that, and they think that we actually have to extend the begging bowl and be perpetual receivers of aid and so on. But we've got abundant natural resources. We've got a great populace who are skilled, who are educated. We can revive our manufacturing and industry sector. And if you read through some of our policies, we intend to be the largest exporter of manufactured goods in SADC in 5 years. We want to be the largest exporter of agricultural produce in 15 years throughout Africa. We've got small goals that we want to achieve, and all we need to do is maybe just rationalize, say, the land reform, put the money in the right places, plug all the loopholes, and just get the engine moving again.
Yes. You haven't told us, you come from a highly religious background. The last time I checked, politics and the church don't really go hand in hand. And the other thing, how prepared are you to go into battle? I mean, in the next few weeks, there'll be by-elections and stuff like that. Are you prepared to start facing candidates? How grounded are you? Are you laying Machiavelli? Are you laying Manika and stuff like that?
The first question on my coming from a highly religious background, yes, I am a pastor, but I think everyone has some sort of religious background, and yet a different calling and mission in life. So I am a pastor with a political calling and a political assignment upon my life. And then on the second question, we are prepared. We are not prepared to contest immediately. So, so far we're in 4 provinces, and we're still putting up our structures. So, no, we will not be contesting in the near future.
Which provinces?
The province that we've got Manicaland, we've got Harare, Bulawayo, and Marsh West.
Are you homegrown or you're donor funded?
We are homegrown.
Yes, sir.
I just want to hear that Morgan Tsvangirai is calling for other political parties to join his so-called big tent. What's your position on that one?
To join something, you have to be fully convinced in what the people you're joining stand for, and whether you are ideologically of the same mindset. So for now, we would say our position as ADP is not yet.
Can you do me a small favor of telling us your own ideology as ADP?
Our own ideology. We are proudly African, and we believe that for the total emancipation of the black people in Africa, we need to stand up for ourselves, we need to start working hard, we need to actually put our resources to development and into the right things and to do away with everything that's been negatively connotated about Africa.
Are you saying the MDC is not for that?
I have not assessed them to be for that. It's not really clear what they are for, because a few positions have changed along the way, so I am no longer certain, whether we sync ideologically.
Yes, brother.
What are your chances of being a threat to ZANU-PF or MDC?
I think they're extremely high. We're being very well received wherever we go, and even we've had one rally, and it was well attended, and we had support even from old war veterans and so on. So I believe that as we gain momentum, we are really going to become a very large threat to the ruling party.
The majority of Zimbabwean political parties, in terms of their hierarchy, they are mixed between politicians from Machiavelli and the dominant ones being from nationalism. How is your hierarchy made up?
Our national executive has people from all parts of Zimbabwe. We do have people from Machiavelli who are working very hard. It's unfortunate that they could not make it to this press conference, but we know. I'm partly in Ndebele, so I would not neglect my own people as well. So I'm half and half, so I'll make sure that we cover all the
So they are being neglected.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and they've been crying for a long time. So, we're not here to please anybody's ears. We'll just tell the truth as it is. They have been very neglected, and we intend to rectify that. I need to do it for my grandmother.
Thank you very much. Okay. I wanted to say, I heard you mentioning something about Gukurahundi earlier on. So I wanted to know, because as much as we know that ZANU-PF, I can safely say, failed to actually solve the problem of the Gukurahundi issue. Why do I say so? Because that the unit accord has actually collapsed. That's why we have seen people like Dumiso Darengo forming the coming up with the reviving, in fact, the ZAPU. And we saw MDC taking advantage of that gap and actually gaining a lot of support in Matabele land. And even up to now, there's still problems with the Matabele land people who are still saying that there are still a lot of things that need to be done concerning the Gukurahundi issue. So you as a party, what measures have you put in place so that maybe, are you going to take advantage of the problem that are existing between Matabeleland and other provinces, or maybe you are going to actually solve the problem of the Gukurahundi issue?
We're going to solve the problem. When someone has been hurt, especially a people or a tribe, the first thing they want is just for someone to acknowledge what happened. So I believe that that is one of the things that has really been lacking, where whatever happened during that era, nobody has ever stood and acknowledged and really said, we are sorry. So because of our thrust on unity, on love, on working together, we cannot ignore another brother's hurt. We cannot ignore another part of us that is hurting. We have to reach out, and we have to make sure that we deal with the causes of that injury, and we don't just bandage over the hurt and pretend that it's gone away when it's festering inside, which I think is what has been happening. We actually need to bring the wound into the air and talk about it, deal with it, and whoever needs to apologize needs to apologize.
On that issue, isn't it a case of trying to find cheap political mileage? Because if we are to look at history, even the president himself said that was a moment of madness. Publicly he said it. So it baffles me when a political party always wants to focus on Gukurahundi just to get cheap mileage. Aren't you trying to do the same?
I would not call it cheap mileage because these are genuine feelings that genuine people have.
Yes, but
people that are Zimbabweans, just like you and I, and people that also have rights, just like you and me. So to brush it off and say any endeavors to reach out to such a people is cheap politicking. I think that's actually an insult to the Ndebele people.
no, it's not an insult as such. If you are to look at it's unfortunate that the issue is taken halfway. People look at those deaths, of which the figures they are not actual figures. People say 20,000 and things like that. But if the head of state goes publicly and says it was a woman of madness, doesn't that bring finality to that issue? And we focus on more other issues.
You know, as long as people are hurting, right now, the other gentleman that asked me the question spoke about there being a gap, which the MDC took advantage of in garnering support in Matabeleland. That gap is a sign that there's no healing that's taken place. So whether you call saying a moment of madness has brought healing, for me, the two do not reconcile.
So how do you intend to do that? Compensate them?
You shall see as you know, our policies unfold. But we definitely want to take that issue up and deal with it seriously because we want Zimbabweans to just be one people and to have one mindset.
But then you are a third party in this issue. Because the main perpetrator, as people try to put it, was ZANU-PF. The victims were people. So you as a third party, how do you intend to fully solve this issue? If you are looking at, I even get your credentials, but then I doubt very much that you made that. Am I correct on that one? Yes. You don't have military backgrounds, things like that.
No.
You did not partake in any of the two parties. So for you to come as an outsider, and in courts, an outsider in courts,
Okay.
how do you intend to solve that issue?
Okay, my brother, right now the rift that is there, the bridge, the bridging that needs to be done, the divide is not between the people in Matabeleland and ZANU-PF. It is actually now cascaded into being a bridge between the Shona people and the Ndebele people. So we want to come in and say, Zimbabweans, we are one. We want to talk on behalf of another group of people that we represent, being the Shona people, and the other group of people that we represent, being the Ndebele people, and bring these people together.
But there's a general misconception that about the Ndebele that they think they're marginalized. You see, that's the problem. If that issue had happened to any of the Shona people, it would have been okay. But the general perception within the Ndebele is they think they are marginalized people. So it's not an issue of whether you're going to bring it to solve the finality of the issue. I think that issue has been laid to rest. We have got more pressing issues to deal with. We can't focus on this issue that happened in the 80s. And yet, universities are churning out 20,000 graduates every year. And out of those 20,000, only maybe 200 are being employed. So surely we can't, how can we take 15 steps back to take one step forward?
I don't believe that we're taking 15 steps back. I think to develop Zimbabwe and to get us to the point where we need to be self-sufficient, we need every Zimbabwean to be committed in their hearts to developing the nation, no matter who is in charge as a political party. So for us to ignore a people that have an issue about how they are treated in the country of their birth would not do justice to our agenda of uniting Zimbabweans. So we still fully intend to bring that issue up and to unite Zimbabweans across race and across tribe.
Since your name is a continental Africa, this is silent on domestic issues.
Our name, the African Democratic Party, yes, it does have a continental appeal, but it's, you know, the emphasis is on the African identity and not the Africa, the continent, if you understand what I mean. So we are talking about Africans, the as in the people.
As a woman, I know there are likely to be challenges in terms of we have seen the political discourse in Zimbabwe. Women have not ascended to higher positions without problems. Look at what is happening within ZANU-PF, and even maybe at our neighboring country, Malawi. Joyce Banda maybe did not make it. And how do you think you can, or what guts or balls do you have maybe to challenge the political?
There's a first time for everything. So what you are talking about is what has been, but there's nothing to stop me from being the first woman that actually goes all the way without being intimidated or being stopped by anyone.
I have two questions. The first one is, the new constitution says for one to be a presidential candidate, you have to have at least 40 years. I wonder if you qualify. And then the second one is, if that gentleman on your left and the other one on your right, if those two guys are lawyers or professors, I'm afraid they will form their own revival. What's your academic program?
I'm an accountant, and
Maybe he wants to know what level. He is older or a diploma older.
If it was
I don't have more credentials. So we'll see that who is right between that general and myself, because I say that Zimbabwe can, and it will be ruled by someone without all credentials. So it's just a matter of time. We can pick it up in 2018 and see who was right and who was wrong.
I think we can have last question. One last question. No question?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a good time having you at this time in Norway. Thank you so much for spending your time. Hope to meet again. You can have some water to quench your thirst. I know you will.